Prowse-Bishop, and this is the Virtual Business Show. Our last two episodes have been on offshore freelancers, one focused on why I don't view them as a threat to Western VAs, and the second with some commentary for clients. This episode is for our offshore colleagues. So there's been a bit of pushback, naturally enough, from freelancers in cheaper labour countries like the Philippines and India in response to reactions of Western VAs when they see jobs posted online and in social media forums for $3 to $6 an hour. As was pointed out in my first episode on this topic and by one Filipino commentator, we live in an interconnected world where there is free enterprise. Globalization has made it easier for us to connect and work with people all over the world. As countries in the East become more connected to the internet and as technology advances and companies in the West catch on to opportunities in the East, these sorts of shifts in who gets the work done are going to happen. Given one of the advantages of being a VA is that you can do it from anywhere in the world, and your clients can be anywhere, there will be increased competition. Now, as I stated in my first episode on this topic, I don't view cheap freelancers as my competition because they look after a part of the market I don't want to work with. Those clients who want work done on the cheap and aren't really interested in partnership. Some of my offshore colleagues would argue that they are partnering with clients. However, in response to that, I say if you are working for a company as a VA, you are in fact an employee, not a VA. Let's revisit the definition. A VA is a business owner, a highly skilled independent professional entrepreneur who provides remote, administrative, technical and/or creative business support services to clients locally, nationally, or globally. The first thing we see here is a VA is a business owner. Many of the offshore freelancers aren't business owners. They're either working for an employer with a team of other employees, or they're after the Craigslist Upwork and freelancer site jobs that are here today and gone tomorrow. Another word in the definition is entrepreneur, further defined as someone who is accountable for the inherent risks and outcomes of an enterprise, and it's become used to describe business owners more generally. This is another primary differentiator between offshore freelancers and VAs. If you work for someone, that employer is accountable for the risks and outcomes, not you. Again, you're an employee, not a VA. Now, of course, there are emerging entrepreneur VAs in these countries who do understand this definition, and they're also trying to improve the perception of their industry both in their own country and overseas. I know people here in Australia who have partnered with those solopreneur VAs and they've had a great relationship with them. Here's my advice to those offshore colleagues who want to be a VA. First off, understand what a VA is. Just because a company is hiring and calls you a VA, that doesn't make you one. Being a VA is not a job, and if you think that way, you will only ever be worth $5 an hour. This industry has been around since 1981, when working from home wasn't even considered a real job. I've been in it since February 2000. When there was no telecommuting, flexible working arrangements, and only dial-up internet. I'll include a history of the industry link on the show page so that you can check out how long it's been going for and what's been happening. Those who succeed know it's not a hobby. It's not a side hustle. It's a business. If you keep taking the $5 an hour jobs, that's all you'll get. If you're happy to accept the $5 an hour paying clients, that's all you'll attract. Don't be fooled into thinking as soon as they start working with me, I can increase my rate over time. The $5 an hour paying client isn't after value or a relationship. They're after cheap, and will move on to the next cheapest option when you increase your rate beyond the bar you have allowed them to set for you. I assume that many of our offshore colleagues want to be a VA for the same reasons we all do. Freedom to work when we like, be our own boss, autonomy, travel, childcare or elder care needs, disability. So you started looking into the industry. The thing is, if you don't have a business owner mindset, you will opt for employment with a company most likely owned by someone in the US or Canada, paying you a fraction of what they're charging the clients because of where you live. And you aren't a business owner. You're an employee, and you are then at the mercy of what the boss wants to pay you, no matter what they are charging the client. I also want you to consider this. It shouldn't be about where you live. We all have the same expenses. Sure, those expenses are relative to where we live, so power might be cheaper in the Philippines than, say, Australia. I honestly have no idea. but I have spoken to some successful Filipino VAs, and you can't live on $5 an hour, even there. I know in Vanuatu it's far more expensive to get a business license than it is here in Australia. If you're charging $5 an hour, you're making pocket money, and quite frankly, you're being exploited. If you have skills, charge for them appropriately. If you don't have any, go out and get some first, then come back to this. And if an employer is offering you 1 month paid training, that doesn't make you a specialist VA. Value yourself first, or others never will, and don't be told what you're worth by anyone, even your own countrymen. That is having a business owner mindset. I'll share some links on the show page to our episode on Should Cost of Living Count and our episode on Worth v Value, and also a link to a blog post by veteran VA Kathy Thomas on how not everyone can be a VA. A lot of these freelancer sites allow you to negotiate rates. I don't negotiate my rates. That's also what makes a business owner. Do you hustle down your mechanic, your doctor, your hairdresser, or do you pay what they charge you? When I made this comment in an online forum, I was told, but those jobs you mention aren't global and so you can't negotiate down. This commentator was of the opinion that because the industry is global, that means demand drives supply, and if demand is for cheaper service providers, then the net result is a driving down of rates across the board. Here I should point out that this person was also managing teams of freelancers and no doubt charging the hidden costs that I refer to in my show on offshore freelancers directed to clients. He was of the view that we should all have teams of cheap labour working for us so that we could spend most of our time lounging around, a la Tim Ferriss. My response to this was, why do we always opt for negotiating down? Why should competition drive rates down? In fact, that actually is the reverse of the supply and demand economic model. The higher the demand for your service, the higher you can charge. At least that's what I always thought. Why can't competition for service delivery drive service offerings up? I think we need to rethink this whole idea of globalization and stop focusing on the lowest common denominator. My point with the in real life businesses is that they are businesses and they think that way. So should VAs, no matter where they're located, and allowing a client to negotiate your rates or haggle with you does not make you a business owner. I was asked in this forum if I had a client wanting a WordPress site done. Why wouldn't I choose to virtually manage a team of 50 Filipino VAs, say at $5 an hour, to do the job, instead of 50 local VAs at a cost of $25 plus an hour? Well, for starters, it shouldn't take 50 VAs anywhere to do one site, regardless of the hourly rate, and if it does, then therein lies my first point to clients. The level of service and or skill may not be the same with a $5 an hour VA as a $25 an hour VA. But my answer was simply that I would hire whatever VAs were skilled to work the project and pay them accordingly, not $5 an hour just because they live in the Philippines. This is what I tell audiences I present to here. Pay the offshore VA what they are worth, or give them a bonus based on the boost in profit you just got. Bottom line, if a VA in the Philippines has the same skills as a VA anywhere else, and they are providing the same service, they should be paid for it the same, not based on what the client believes their cost of living is. I don't believe it's right to encourage Chinese, Filipino, and Indian VAs in particular to charge such insanely low rates. Why shouldn't you charge what you're worth if you have the same skills as your Western cousins? If you've done the professional development and had yourself trained in specialist services? If you don't, then you're being exploited by clients and you will always only get piecework and will never run a profitable business. Plain and simple. If you don't have the skills, then you shouldn't be providing the service. We need to change this mindset around cheap and encourage clients to pay what someone is worth, especially if that client comes from a country that can afford higher rates. We shouldn't be focused on the VA's cost of living, but on the service being provided no matter where they live. For sure, if you have a client in your own country who can't afford more than $5 an hour, then fine, charge them that if you like. But if the majority of your clients are coming from the West, what on earth are you doing ripping yourself off? And for that matter, undermining the entrepreneur VA businesses in your own country who are trying to make your economy better by running profitable businesses. Yes, the industry is global, but that doesn't mean we should be racing each other to the bottom. We should be encouraging everyone who wants to be a VA to work like a VA, as a business owner who charges in accordance with their skill level, experience, and service offering, not their location. I don't believe Filipino or other offshore VAs are my competition, so I don't really care what they charge. I don't compete in that low-value market. I have clients all over the world willing to pay my rate. The ones who want cheap are looked after by those willing to accept being paid next to nothing, and I don't operate in that end of the market, so there is no competition. We hear this a lot from offshore freelancers, especially those running companies who employ so-called VAs, that Western VAs are just upset by the competition. The industry has been around for decades, and it's actually one of the least competitive there is. Clients wanting to pay $5 an hour aren't my market, therefore no competition. But I would like to see my offshore colleagues valuing themselves more than they currently do. And I would like to see others likewise encouraging them. Don't forget the $5 an hour VA has only been globally known since 2007 in an industry that's been going since 1981, thanks to Tim Ferriss, the modern day version of an industrial revolution style workhouse owner. If you hear people in your country saying things like Western VAs are just threatened by us taking their work, ask yourself, why are you being pimped out at such low rates to Western clients who can afford to pay more for your services? It doesn't matter where you live. What matters is the service you offer, and that should dictate the charge-out rate. I've seen North American companies promoting their degree-qualified VAs, and clients are only paying $5 an hour for that? What's that about? If you have a degree, why are you only getting $5 an hour? Mind you, I've also seen MBA qualified VAs unable to follow the most basic of instructions, and recent surveys have shown that clients aren't particularly concerned whether VAs are credentialed or not, so a degree won't necessarily tip the balance in your favour. It's not a big determining factor for clients. Given that the company needs to make a margin, the VA employed by them isn't getting all of that $5 an hour necessarily. How is that fair? And these companies aren't advertising to locally based clients, so it's exploitation. And they are not VAs but employees being paid a rate commensurate with their cost of living, just like if they had a job in their home country because, well, they do. And that's why the North American company has set up their structure that way. This is a modern day workhouse exploitation. If you are suitably skilled, you should be demanding to be paid appropriately for those skills. Besides, these companies have many additional costs and add-on charges to clients that aren't being passed on to you. VAs who are solopreneurs have to change their thinking. If you are truly operating in a global market, you can't work globally and charge locally. You deserve international rates. Sure, you can charge your local clients a cheaper rate if you like because they are living with that cost of living. But if you're promoting your services offshore, you can charge more because those clients can afford more. If you're not charging based on your skills and qualifications and experience, then you're part of the problem and you keep perpetuating the exploitation of your colleagues. If you're wanting to be a solopreneur, you also have to have the support and buy-in of your family. And this applies to VAs all over the world, not just in emerging economies. And don't fall into the trap of trying to outbid your Western colleagues. There is plenty of work around for all of us, and you need to be paid what you're worth, not bring the rest of the industry down to an exploitative level. That doesn't mean you have to charge $60 an hour for work, but if you have the skills of your Western counterparts and you're providing the same services and you charge $5, why not $20? You're still charging less than Western VAs, but you've raised the bar on the perception of value clients have for your offering. Traditionally, VAs charged in three broad fee ranges. Low range for those startups and those with limited skills or services to offer. Mid-range for those who had been in business a while or had more specialised offerings, and high range for those with very specialised services, special software, who had done courses or managed teams of VAs. Janet Jordan, who launched Virtual Assistants U in the US in 2000 and was one of the VA industry leading voices and trainers, summed it up best. She said, VAs can't get people to pay top dollar if they 1. Don't understand the concept, 2. Don't understand their value, and 3. Don't look like a professional. If we don't take ourselves seriously, neither will clients. You attract what you are. As virtual assistants, we redeem the gift of time for our clients, up to 3 months per year in fact, and if we can do that, our clients will gladly pay for the value imparted. In order to do that, we have to bring our A game. The truth is, it's never about the money, except when the value hasn't been established for the client. So focus on your value, not on exploitative rates based on where you live. In order to be successful, you'll have to operate your practice on a volume model, and there are only so many hours in a day. If you're taking on $5 an hour work, it's pocket money, so you're not a VA because you are not operating as a business. And don't just take it from me. Rochefel Rivera from Professional Virtual Assistants is a Filipino VA who gets it and wants to help others get it too. As she says on her site, "My advocacy is simple, to share to as many people as possible that VAs are business owners and for VAs to act and think like one. From marketing, pricing, customer relations and service quality, all of them should reflect that an entrepreneur is working behind it, a professional virtual assistant." This lady is the future of the industry in the Asia region, in my opinion, and has a series of free VA training videos on YouTube and articles on her blog at professionalvas.com. I'll share links on the show page. She coined the term VA-preneur to emphasize that virtual assistants are entrepreneurs and should act and be treated as such. Her main goal for virtual assistants is to revolutionize the way that VAs find clients and putting emphasis on the value of relationship building and change how VAs perceive their value by offering a service that they're passionate about. She aims to change VAs' mindsets from employee to entrepreneur, one class at a time. Please check her out and let's start a real revolution. One where our offshore VA colleagues stop being exploited thanks to elitist authors like Tim Ferriss and his disciples who are following his Dickensian theories of work-life balance, and we shift the mindset of not only freelancers but clients too, that what this industry provides is professional, mutually beneficial partnerships for a livable charge-out rate, not dependent on one's location. I'm Lynn Prowse-Bishop. Thanks so much for listening.